What's up, y'all? Today we are breaking down a basketball schedule poster. One of my favorite things to create. Schedule posters are like super cool. A lot of times if you're working in college athletics or just athletics in general, those are the posters that get like printed and hung up. This one was digital, but still a cool thing to do. Let's break it down. So for this one, we started out with a white background, and then we added in a gradient overlay that's radial, so it's just barely there, 15% opacity, and we added in some noise, 25%. So if you just go to filter, let's see, oh yeah, here we go, noise, add noise. There's a lot of ways to do this sort of thing, but that's how I did it. So then we have our picture of the floor, and what I did is I got one piece of this floor, so you can see how they're in 4 pieces. I got one piece and then duplicated that a few times, made it into one big square, and then once I had that one big square, I control clicked all of them to where I could like edit all of them at the same time, and then use transform, and then I gave them this perspective. So like shift click right there, that gets all of them, control T, and then you can transform them all together like that. So that's what I did there. This is just a layer mask to cut off the edges that I need, and then I duplicated it and made a little drop down piece to make it look like it's 3D. So basically I just transformed it and like stretched it downwards, and you want to make the edges look like they're going sort of like down together. If anything, maybe a little bit like towards the center, but basically straight down. It's all about the perspective. So then over top of that whole layer, I did an inner shadow, which is actually a glow. You can see it on the back the most to separate it from the background. And what that does is it like kind of makes sure like it all looks like one piece, gives it the same lighting. Then we put the black and white layer on it, and I think I tweaked the yellows a little bit to make it more white, so you can do that. I like where I ended up with that. I think it looks cool. Then we added the logo on, transformed it the same way, used multiply on that, and then we just used a black brush to brush in shadows for their feet, as well as using their cutouts to make shadows. I won't go into detail with that now, but you've seen me do that in other videos. You basically just duplicate their cutout, use a color overlay to make it like black, and then transform it to make it look like a shadow that's on the ground. So then I made the back of the square blurry back here, and that makes it look like it's like further away, so what's closer to us is in focus. Then we just put a red rectangle in the back to be part of the backboard basically, and then put the basketball hoop right there in the middle. I really like how this basketball hoop looks, so then we just made that black and white, and then I just painted a red look over the rim pieces to match the red of the team. So we have our first cutout. On him we have a blur and an inner shadow. So since he is in the back, he's going to have the most blur. And then that inner shadow, which is the rim lighting, you can see that there. We have the front guy, no blur on him, but we still put the lighting around the outside. And then the last guy, same thing, just a little bit less blur, but there's still some blur on him, since he's a little bit further away from the camera than the front guy. And then I just brightened them all up with a curves layer, kind of an S curve, but just wanted to make the highlights pop. And then we made the outer pieces using a Gaussian blur and a ripple effect. And that kind of like makes their it just gives the like glass look here a texture, so then like when you look through it, it looks like they have like this glass texture overlaid onto them. I really like that. I think it's awesome technique. So all that is a Gaussian blur with the ripple effect, and you can find that under distort and then ripple, and then you know where to find Gaussian blur. If you don't, it's a problem. So then we put a bevel on the edge of that glass to really like sell the hard edge of it. And basically what this is I've duplicated this layer with some background pieces that I haven't showed you yet, but I've duplicated this layer or this whole scene and put that over top, and then I put these effects on that layer, and then I just cut out the middle. You see this layer mask here, so like this piece right here is what is missing. So if I disable that, you can see the whole thing's that way. So I cut out the middle so that you just see the main guys. So then we added in another texture set to hard light at 10%. I didn't want to give it too much texture because you can see it already has a lot, and that just gives the glass that like cool textured look that you sometimes see on glass. And then we just added in the text on the sides, so that way like this helps separate it from the background. And then we added schedule up top, give that a gradient overlay to make that part pop. And then I just use a curves layer that's just brightened and a curves layer that is darker. And then I just went in and kind of just brushed random places on the gold of the words because it just makes it pop. It's just kind of random, but it just gives the yellow words that like cool looking effect. So all these side things are, which like they need to have the blur, but it's just rectangles that I've like transformed and like put them over on the edge. So it's a red one and a yellow one, and then to make it really pop, put a gradient overlay over both of those in this group. And then we have the claw effect or the scratch effect or whatever you want to call it with a bevel and a gradient overlay. So if you just find like the PNG art of this, then put the bevel and see if the fill is in, then whatever color it is going to show up, which that still looks cool. But if you want to take away like the middle part and just show the effect on the background, you just take the fill to 0 and it still shows up. The edges like still show up, which I think is really cool. So all you need is a bevel. The gradient overlay was for that gold look that I had on it, but I decided to go colorless. So then we just put our home and away just to show like what's what. Home is the gold, away is black. Then we just have a blur that I've put over top of different parts of the layer. So basically I just made a Gaussian blur. I painted over the basketball a little bit since that's moving, his hand since that's moving, his foot since that's moving, his hand right here. And that's basically it. You can tell there's already a blur on the stuff that's behind the glass, but I wanted to put a little bit of a blur on like some of the stuff that's moving a little bit. So that's what I was just doing there. And you just paint that in with the layer mask. And then I just brightened it up using the apply image like glow technique that I do in basically all my videos if you want to find how I do that. And then to finish it up, I just added in a color lookup. It's not much, but it just kind of gives that last little uniform look and logo. So this will be on my Patreon if you want to go through it. I should have said that in the beginning, but if you want to go through it with me in this video, you can start the video over. You can get it from my Patreon and just kind of see what I did here. I think this is like one of the best graphics I've done in the last little bit. I just think it's like very clean, simple, but also really cool and has some like cool effects in it. So if you want that, it's on my Patreon. Go check it out as well as some other things. And we'll see you in the next one.